and welcome to a new bulletin of the week that was, TIOL's weekly news roundup. Here are some of our news highlights today. New tax rules for foreign companies.
Capital goods policy approved.
Customs survey on passenger satisfaction.
Officers cannot lobby against transfer order.
Krishi Kalyan cess from June 1.
But first, let's find out about the new rules for capital gains tax on foreign companies.
The CBDT has issued draft rules to bring in clarity and certainty on levy of capital gains tax on the indirect transfer of Indian assets by multinationals. Intended to prevent tax quagmires like Vodafone and Kane, the proposed rules govern the computation of fair market value of assets of foreign companies holding listed or unlisted shares in Indian entities. As per the rules, the fair value of an unlisted entity will be determined by a merchant banker or a chartered accountant in accordance with any internationally accepted pricing methodology. Such calculation is critical for computing any income arising from the transfer of such shares or interest deemed to accrue or arise in India. The rules also demand greater disclosures from Indian companies by specifying the format of stringent reporting for Indian concerns whose shares are indirectly transferred by a foreign entity. Such information is required to be furnished in a new form 49D, in which a foreign entity holds the assets in India. The rules also demand that foreign companies with underlying Indian assets need to maintain the prescribed documents and information for 8 years, bringing them on par with domestic assessees. In case of any gap in sourcing information, the rules threaten to make the entire income attributable to assets located in India. The department has invited public comments and suggestions to these draft rules up to this weekend. Gear up for the Krishi Kalyan cess from June 1st.
The Krishi Kalyan cess, as announced by the Finance Minister in his budget speech, shall come into effect from June 1 to be imposed at the rate of 0.5% on all or any taxable services. The proceeds shall go towards financing improvements in agriculture and welfare of farmers. Input tax credit of this cess shall be available for payment of only this cess. Both the Krishi Kalyan cess and the Swachh Bharat cess are to be paid separately and accounted for separately. The CBEC has notified a separate accounting head in this regard. Action may be taken against officers who lobby against their transfer order.
Officers are known to lobby for transfers or even request cancellation of transfer orders. But now the Ministry of Home Affairs has threatened to take action. It recently issued an advisory noting that certain IAS and IPS officers of AGMIT or Arunachal Pradesh, Goa, Mizoram and Union Territory cadre had been lobbying for the cancellation of their transfer order. It warned officers that orders once issued after due consideration will be strictly enforced and disciplinary action may be initiated against the officers who place extraneous pressure or outside influence for cancellation of the transfer orders. An adverse entry may even be made in their service record. What is more strange is that this advisory by the Home Ministry was issued towards the end of April, but the Delhi government has decided to circulate it this week, just prior to the pending transfer of a few IAS officers. The games bureaucrats will play. Differences over procedure may disrupt the ongoing appointment of judges.
The ongoing appointment of judges may take a back seat even as the centre drags its feet on finalizing the memorandum of procedure for judicial appointments. After an emotional appeal by the Chief Justice Mr. T.S. Thakur last month, the government had agreed to finalize the appointment of 4 judges to the Supreme Court and a few judges for the High Courts. But now, this process may grind to a halt as the centre is no longer in favour of accepting the recommendations of the CJI-headed collegium. The centre and the judiciary continue to lock horns over two clauses for the Memorandum of Procedure for Judicial Appointments. While the judiciary is unwilling to accept the view of the Attorney General or Advocate General for appointment of judges as final, the centre wants the right to veto a judge's appointment on the ground of national interest. The quest for control needs to end as there are more than 400 vacancies for High Court judges in the country. The CBEC is keen to improve air passenger satisfaction.
The Central Board of Excise and Customs recently hired a management school to conduct a survey on passenger satisfaction levels at Mumbai Airport, one of India's busiest airports handling international passenger traffic. The survey found that 69% of the passengers queried felt Mumbai Airport was actually better than other international airports across the world. Only 15% felt it was worse. More than 70% believed that the customs clearance process had improved. The areas requiring improvement were availability of information like baggage rules, how much gold or money can you bring into India, transparency in duty assessment and speed. The survey states that there is also scope for improvement in the behavior of customs officers in terms of managing crucial conversation, tone of communication, gender sensitization, and emotional intelligence. Mr. Najib Shah, Chairman CBEC, has assured suitable action to improve passenger satisfaction not only at Mumbai but all airports in India. The India-Singapore DTAA will be revised.
The India-Singapore Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement may be revised by the end of this year. The government will soon initiate the process for the modification of its tax treaty with Singapore. The India-Singapore Tax Treaty provides for extension of one of the provisions of the India-Mauritius Treaty. But, following the revision of India's tax treaty with Mauritius to enable uniformity on capital gains tax, the Finance Ministry has clarified that the modified provision will not automatically apply to investments routed through Singapore. The Singapore Treaty will need to be renegotiated, as will the tax treaty with Cyprus, which is another major source of foreign investment. Speed breakers will be removed.
The Delhi High Court has directed civic authorities in Delhi to remove all unauthorized speed breakers within 1 month. These are speed breakers constructed on public roads without authorization by the traffic police and which do not conform to the prescribed norms of the Indian Road Congress and the guidelines of the Unified Traffic and Transportation Infrastructure Planning and Engineering Center. The High Court also directed the agencies to remove the plastic or PVC speed breakers and to put up signage as per the prescribed guidelines. The authorities will file affidavits to indicate compliance with these directions.
Now, for some news tidbits from India and around the world. To boost industrial production and domestic economy, the government has approved the policy for the capital goods sector, which produces the inputs for manufacture of other goods. The policy targets tripling the sector's production from Rs 2.3 lakh crore to Rs 7.5 lakh crore by 2025. The policy also targets greater capacity utilization for domestic industry up to 80-90%.
The Modi government completed 2 years in office this week. The Prime Minister has delivered the maximum reforms undertaken by a government. In a nationwide survey of CEOs, the government was credited with bringing down the corporate tax rate, clearing the retrospective tax mess, introducing the new bankruptcy law which would make business easier. The government's initiative of Digital India and Swachh Bharat were also appreciated. Better foreign relations, putting India on the global map, and curbing corruption in governance were rated positively.
The Chinese company Huawei Technologies has sued Korean mobile maker Samsung Electronics, claiming infringement of its smartphone patent. Lawsuits have been filed against Samsung in the United States and China to seek compensation for the unilicensed use of 4th generation 4G cellular communications technology operating systems and user interface software used in Samsung phones.
The government has welcomed Apple into India without concessions. The Foreign Investment Promotion Board has given Apple the green signal to set up retail stores in India, but the American company will have to source 30% material locally. Apple was seeking an exemption from local sourcing norms as it uses cutting-edge technology, an expression yet to be defined by DIPP. Apple has been permitted 100% FDI for single-brand retailing.
Our neighbor, Pakistan, may truly understand the legal issues India and her SSEs face, especially those arising from a headless CISTAT. Pakistan's post of chairman of the Customs Appellate Tribunal has been lying vacant for 4 months, which has led to chaos. The appellate tribunals are dysfunctional because, like India's CISTAT, the Pakistan's Customs Act also stipulates that the then function of the appellate tribunal may be discharged by the benches constituted by the chairman. So, if there is no chairman, then there are no benches. The Sindh High Court has issued notices to Pakistan's Federal Secretary Law and Deputy Attorney General for June 2.
Delhi witnessed an unusual event last week. It was the largest gathering of more than 1,000 ladies from 75 countries, each of them a leader in her own right. They were business entrepreneurs, technology consultants, health gurus, fashionistas, researchers, travel specialists, and even spiritual leaders. These ladies took time off their busy schedules to host 408 sessions over 6 days at the Women's Economic Forum, an annual networking event for business thought leadership, economic opportunity, and simply learning. Only about 30% of the speakers were men. The sessions covered employment laws, world-class leadership, investment, communication, chic philanthropy, near-linguistic programming, dealing with difficult people, Kabbalah workshops, and even karma and reincarnation. But more than the packed sessions were the impromptu events on the sidelines of the conference. We bring you some glimpses from an impromptu workshop on walking on stilettos.
Hi, my name is China Wine and I'm here at the Women's Economic Forum in Delhi. I'm here to help women get it right in high heels, get the confidence that they need, awaken that inner goddess, all in stilettos. And I'll see you rocking those stilettos.
Swagger, yeah. Whisper, wow. Swagger, 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 swagger. Swagger to the left, swagger to the right. Whoa, whoa, swagger all night. Swagger to the left, swagger to the right. Whoa, whoa, we're gonna swagger all night. You guys love me, follow me on the
That was the Women's Economic Forum, an annual event which was surprisingly a zero-ticket conference. Participants only paid for boarding and lodging. The conference, organized by the All Ladies League, was otherwise free.
We now conclude this bulletin of the week that was. Thank you for watching.
You may write to us at editor@tiol.in. Have a cool weekend ahead.